The movie starts in a noisy bar where three men spot a drunk Cassie wasting away on a couch.
If she's not careful, someone's going to take advantage, especially kind of guys in.
Seeing her vulnerability, one of the men decides to try his luck with her. He approaches her and realizes she's too drunk to make a proper conversation, so he offers her a ride home. While in the cab, he suddenly invites her over to his house, and without waiting for a reply, he instructs the driver to take them to his house address.
Can you take us to 242 Raleigh Drive instead, please? It's a couple blocks.
At his house, he offers Cassie a highly intoxicated drink and tries to kiss her, but she doesn't respond to the kiss. She claims to be dizzy and requests to lie down, so he throws her on the bed and climbs on top of her to have his way with her. As he begins to undress her, she suddenly drops her drunk act, sits upright, and questions his action, making the man terrified.
Hey, I said, what are you doing?
The next morning, as she carelessly eats a hot dog while walking home, some construction workers begin to catcall and harass her, so she stops on her track and stares at them weirdly, so they get embarrassed and leave. It turns out that Cassie is a 30-year-old still living with her parents. At breakfast, when her father questions her lateness to work, she lies that the coffee shop is carrying out an inventory. But the mother quickly points out it's impossible for a coffee shop to carry out daily inventories. At the coffee shop, Cassie's friend tries to persuade her to take up a job with great benefits, but Cassie firmly refuses. That night, as usual, Cassie continues her game of showing up in a bar, pretending to be drunk to lure unsuspecting men. Afterward, she returns home to count the number of her victims. One day, while working at the coffee shop, a man shows up to place an order. Without looking at his face, she proceeds to make the order.
Can I get a coffee, please?
But the man begins to stare unusually at her, and when she confronts him about it, he calls out her name and reminds her that they were classmates in medical school. It turns out that Cassie was a medical school dropout. Ryan finds this weird and questions her reason for quitting medical school to work at a shitty coffee shop. But in the middle of asking this, he realizes how inappropriate it is, so he flattens out while talking and tells her to spit in his drink if she found his question offensive. Shockingly, Cassie spits into his drink and hands it over to him. Amused at this, he suddenly asks her out on a date before drinking the cup of coffee in her presence. That night, Cassie plays dress up to continue her usual game.
Not really. I got work in the morning.
A man takes her to his house and tries to drug her in order to have his way with her. Seeing her drunk and unmoving, he begins to kiss her, but she suddenly grabs his cheeks to tell him she isn't drunk. The man immediately freaks out and calls her a psycho, but she acts unbothered and casually picks up a bowl of chips to snack on, while the man tries to make sense of the situation. Seeing her calm behavior, he tries to whitewash his actions, but she calls him out for trying to drug and sleep with her without her permission. Afterwards, she leaves his apartment. The next morning, as she prepares for work, she sees her parents happily waiting for her with a present. Confused by their actions, she requests to know the reason for the sudden present. So her mother reminds her it's her birthday and criticizes her for forgetting an important day of her life. This leads the mother to break down in tears at her daughter's nonchalant lifestyle. Seeing the situation, the father consoles the mother and tells Cassie to open the present. She opens the present to find a pink suitcase, so she pretends to like it. But at work, she tells her friend how she thinks the suitcase is her parents' subtle way of telling her to leave their house. Upon hearing this, the friend advises her to change her lifestyle and explore yoga or having a boyfriend. But she flatly turns this down. As they discuss this, Ryan walks into the coffee shop and softly calls out Cassie for giving him a fake number the last time he asked her out on a date. Hearing this, the friend excuses herself to give them space for a conversation, so Ryan confesses to Cassie that he had liked her since their days in medical school. He asks her out for a date again and promises to stop bugging her if she doesn't fancy him after the date. After hearing his speech, she decides to give him a try.
If you don't like it, we can have a safe word, and you can leave, no questions asked.
The next day, as she sneaks out to the date, her parents notice her leaving and compliment the dress. During the date, Ryan recalls their days in medical school and comments that she would have been a great doctor due to her intelligence and good results. In response, she tells him how she no longer wants to put effort into life. Noticing her sad tone, he immediately changes the topic and makes her laugh throughout the date. As they happily walk home after the date, Ryan invites her over to his house, but this triggers her trauma, so she turns down his requests and walks away, leaving him standing awkwardly alone. At home, after reflecting on her behavior, she decides to apologize to him. So, the next day, she shows up in the lobby of his hospital, where he sees her. As they sit down for a conversation, she tells him she's willing to go into a relationship with him. However, they'll have to take things slowly, which he agrees to. From that day, Cassie begins to show small positive changes in her life. Her friend notices her humming to a song tune and finds it unusual of Cassie, so she deduces that Cassie is in a relationship. One day, Ryan visits Cassie in her coffee shop and begins to talk about their classmates in medical school. He mentions that Alexander, one of their classmates, was getting married to a gorgeous model. As he blabs on about the lavish proposal event, unknown to him, Cassie's entire mood had turned for the worst. She questions him about Alexander, and he reveals that Alex now has a successful career as an anesthesiologist at their hospital. That night, Cassie is unable to sleep at the thought of Alex living a peaceful life, while her best friend has been dead for so long. It turns out Cassie's best friend in medical school had been molested by Alex during a school party while she was too drunk to consent. When the friend reported the case, no one sided with her and everyone believed Alexander. The trauma from being assaulted led the friend to commit self-deletion, while Cassie dropped out due to the loss of her friend. After recalling this, she pulls out her laptop and searches the internet for Alex's name. She finds a post of him announcing his engagement with tons of her former classmates, leaving congratulatory comments. Although this annoys her to the core, she continues scrolling through the post and notices a comment left by Madison, one of her former classmates. So, she looks through Madison's profile, takes note of her contact information, and plans to take revenge on everyone who contributed to the injustice her friend went through. After a few days, she schedules a meeting with Madison at a restaurant and orders alcoholic champagne and a soft drink. When the waiter leaves, she pours the champagne into a glass and also pours the soft drink into her own glass, making it look like a champagne drink.
Madison. Oh my God.
When Madison arrives at the table, they begin to have a conversation, with Madison bragging about her husband and kids. Cassie pours more champagne into her glass, and as they talk more and more, Madison ends up getting drunk from the several bottles of wine. Seeing this, Cassie suddenly brings up the reason she dropped out of medical school. She reminds Madison of the night that their dead best friend got drunk at a frat party and ended up getting molested by Alexander. Madison tries to downplay the incident and even blames the dead friend for getting drunk enough to be vulnerable to men. Cassie is disappointed to hear this and stops the conversation after noticing that Madison is drunk from the champagne. She picks up her bag and walks over to another table at the restaurant. There, she hands over a room key to a strange man and instructs him on what to do with the drunk Madison. The next day, Cassie receives several panic calls from Madison asking if she had gotten too drunk and made out with a man at the restaurant, but Cassie refuses to give an answer. Instead, she pulls out her diary, cancels out Madison's name, and flips the page to her next target. The next day, she pulls up to a high school and asks a young girl for directions to a shooting location. She pretends to be the makeup artist of a popular boy band shooting a video around the location. The girl, who's a huge fan of the boy band, volunteers to personally direct her to the area. To prove her trustworthiness, the girl even hands over her phone to Cassie and promises to keep the whereabouts of the boy band a secret from other fans. As soon as the girl enters her car, Cassie locks the door. Later that day, she booked an appointment to meet the dean of her former medical school.
Daisy. That's me, Dean Wong.
While having a conversation, she brings up the incident that happened between her friend and Alex. According to her, Alex had carried her friend to his dorm and molested her several times in the presence of his friends, who filmed the entire thing. The dean is shocked to hear this and questions if the incident was reported, so Cassie reveals that they had actually reported it to her, but as the dean at that time, she had dismissed the incident and claimed the evidence was insufficient, even with the presence of bruise marks on the dead friend. Upon hearing this, the dean explains she could not bear to ruin Alex's life because of a molestation report. She also blames Cassie's friend for getting drunk at the party and becoming vulnerable to men. To crown it up, she adds that men should be given the benefit of the doubt when molestation accusations are made against them. Cassie is shocked to hear her opinion on the matter, so before leaving, she tells the woman that she had picked up her daughter from high school and dropped her in a room with older boys to see if the boys could be given the benefit of the doubt. Shocked to hear this, the dean immediately calls her daughter's number, but the phone rings in Cassie's bag. She immediately panics and yells at Cassie to know what's happening, but her reaction makes Cassie amused. After yelling and getting no response, the woman calms down and begs to know the whereabouts of her daughter. She also apologizes for treating the molestation report lightly and promises to do better in the future. Seeing her showing remorse, Cassie reveals that she had actually dropped the daughter at a diner. Later that day, Ryan shows up at her house and questions her reason for not showing up to their movie date. She claims to have forgotten, so he invites her out for dinner, but she turns down the offer. Noticing something off about her, he asks about her well-being, but she insists she's doing great, so he bids her goodbye. But that night, she visits a bar to play her usual game. A man picks her up, thinking she's drunk, and as he carries her to his car, Ryan walks past them and instantly recognizes her. He confronts her for canceling their date to show up in a bar with a one-night stand. She tries to explain, but he walks away, disappointed in her. The next day, Cassie visits the lawyer who had forced her friend to drop the case against Alex. Contrary to her expectations, he looks remorseful and even tells her that he has been looking forward to his days of reckoning. Seeing this, she reminds him that he had defended a man named Alex against molestation accusations and had even bullied the victim into dropping the case. Although she wasn't expecting him to remember the case, he shockingly tells her that he vividly remembers it and even goes as far as recalling her friend's name, making him the only one who remembered. He goes on his knees and begs for forgiveness, claiming he had quit his job afterwards due to being remorseful for his actions. She decides to forgive him, so he breaks down in tears. After leaving his house, she goes to meet a hitman she had hired and cancels her arrangement with him. Later that day, she pays a visit to her dead friend's mother, and as they reminisce, the woman begs her to move on with her life and not focus on revenge. So, that day, Cassie deletes all her bookmarks on her targets and throws away her diary. Afterwards, she goes to visit Ryan and begs for his forgiveness. When he brings up the incident of her visiting a bar to hook up with a random man, she skips out her explanation and promises it'll never happen. But he hesitates to continue their relationship, so she apologizes and leaves. From that day on, she begins to change her lifestyle for good. She begins to eat breakfast early with her parents and shows up early at work to clean up and attend to customers. After a few days, Ryan shows up at her coffee shop to make up with her, so they share a kiss. They begin to spend time together as a happy couple, and she even invites him to dinner to meet her parents. After spending several weeks building their relationship, Ryan confesses he's fallen in love with her, and she admits the same, so they decide to take the relationship seriously. One day, as Cassie returns from buying groceries, she finds Madison waiting in front of her house. Madison explains that she had tried calling for weeks, but got no response, so she decided to pay a visit to the house. Seeing her panicking, Cassie explains that she had hired the man to make it seem like they slept together, but nothing actually happened. Feeling relieved, Madison reveals she has something secret to say, so Cassie invites her into the house. There, she apologizes for her previous opinion of the dead friend, and reveals she has a videotape that was sent around to the class group chat after the molestation took place. She gives the tape to Cassie, and before leaving, she tells her never to contact each other again. After hesitating for a while, Cassie slowly picks up the tape to watch the video of her dead being molested by multiple boys, with Alex taking the lead. She breaks down in tears while watching the disturbing video, and after contemplating for a while, she makes up her mind to continue the revenge on Alex. First, she pays a visit to Ryan at the hospital, and when he sees her unusual behavior, he pulls her into his office for a conversation. She pretends to be okay and draws close to him for a kiss. But then, she stops halfway and pulls out her phone to show him the tape of her friend being molested. It turns out Ryan was actually present in the video and didn't make an effort to stop her friend from being molested. He tries to apologize for not reporting the video when they needed evidence, but she rejects his apology and threatens to expose his involvement unless he gives her an invitation to Alex's bachelor's party to celebrate his wedding. Ryan initially refuses to give out the invitation, but she insists on exposing his involvement to the hospital for his medical license to be revoked, so he reluctantly gives out the invitation. He tries to plead for her forgiveness, but she ignores him and walks away. After a few days, she dresses up as a stripper and visits the isolated cabin where Alex is hosting his bachelorette party. She plays along to their weird fetish, and as all the boys fall for it, she picks Alex and tells him to go upstairs with her for a rough private time. He agrees, and as they enter a room, she continues to role-play a stripper and handcuffs him to a bed. When he asks for her name, she gives him the name of her friend he has molested. Upon hearing the name, Alex suspects something amiss and tries to escape from the handcuff, but to no avail. Seeing this, Cassie pulls off her act and reveals she's here to take revenge for what he did to her friend. He tries to yell for help from his friends, but Cassie tells him they had passed out from the drink she had fed them. Now, in a helpless situation, Alex claims he had been drunk when he molested the friend, but this excuse annoys Cassie to the core, so she brings up the tape and points out he wasn't drunk from the video on the tape. With the truth being out, Alex begins to beg for forgiveness, but Cassie tells him it's too late since her friend had killed herself due to the trauma. Alex begins to cry at the thought of what she would do to him, but she ignores him and pulls out a scalpel in an attempt to carve her friend's name on his stomach.
Help! Help me! Fuck!
Suddenly, he frees himself from one of the handcuffs and begins to struggle with her on the bed. As she tries to free herself from his hold, he pulls out a pillow and smothers her with it, leading to her death. The morning after her death, his friend walks into the room to check up on him, so he reveals she's dead. As he breaks down in tears at his actions, the friend consoles him and reassures him that once they secretly bury her body, everything will be fine. Later that day, they visit the woods to burn her body. Meanwhile, Cassie's parents are worried about her whereabouts and report her missing to the police. During interrogation, the police ask about her boyfriend, so the parents tell them about Ryan. Later that day, a detective goes to visit Ryan at the hospital and reveals that Cassie has gone missing. When they ask if he has any information that could lead to her whereabouts, he claims to know nothing. So the detective leaves.
You are my moral compass and the love of my life.
Al, you are my
Meanwhile, Alex hosts a successful wedding with Ryan in attendance. In the middle of the ceremony, Ryan receives a scheduled message from Cassie telling him it isn't the end. At the same time, the lawyer receives a package with the videotape and a letter telling him the location of the cabin. It turns out she had sent it to him in case she didn't return. The police immediately show up at the wedding ceremony to arrest Alex, and at the same time, another group of police go to survey the area around the cabin. Fortunately, they find Cassie's burnt ashes with her necklace still unburnt. As the police lead Alex out of the wedding venue, Ryan receives the last scheduled text from Cassie telling him to enjoy his day.